Hello and welcome to Matlab Minutes, where we do Matlab in minutes. Today is episode 7, importing data from Excel. We're going to show you a couple of different ways to import some data. I like starting with an Excel file because I think a lot of data that we often see as engineers comes from something that's been recorded and placed into Excel, although the first way I'm going to show you to import data can be used with other file types. And the two ways we're going to do this is the manual way and then a nice really cool automated feature that exists within the live script environment. So let's start with the difficult way, the manual way. So this is going to be a command line import. So this is going to be my command line import, and this is sort of the old school way of doing this if I want to import some data. I need a variable. I'm going to call this my data imported, and I want to stuff the data that I'm going to import into this variable right here. We'll talk about what that variable becomes in just a second. I've got a test data file, an XLSX file here, sitting in this directory. If I'm doing it this way, there's a couple of options. One is to put your data file here, the other is to know the full path. So this would be, if you're on Windows, C /users / all the way down to your file. If it happens to be in this directory, we can call that file directly. And what we're going to use to do this is the read table command, create a table from a file. And a table is a special type of thing. In Matlab, tables have headers, so they have titles and things on them already built in, and we access them differently than arrays. But I want to pull this in first as a table, and I have a bunch of options. I suggest you check out help if you want it, but I'm going to use a double quote because I need to give it a physical name of a thing. And then the thing I want to import is test data.xlsx. This is my test data.xlsx file right here, and this is what I'm going to use. And I'm just going to suppress this because I don't want to see the output. And I'm going to run this, and it's going to give me a warning. Sometimes our column headers from the file are modified. Basically, Matlab is just making any changes to the headers to make sure that they get imported properly. And we see this data imported. There's my variable over here in the workspace. And if I double click and pop this open, you'll see that I have a table. This is what makes a table unique, is that I have these titles that come in with my table. Now to get into a table, I have to index into them in a special way. I'll show you that in a second. But while we're here, I want to point out that there's this weird NaN thing, and this means not a number. And in my table, what I have in here, formatted in Excel, just so we could see what happens, is I have two columns with nothing in them but formatted as text. And since Matlab knows that they're not a number, from Excel, Matlab will give this not a number value. So we have this is exactly what it looks like. I have something in seconds in position M. And if I want to peel that data out, I need to get that into a variable I can work with. And I like working with column vectors. So I have time in here. So I'm going to do time equals, and then I need to get this out of my data imported. So I'm going to say data imported tab, and then the way I get to something in it is by using a dot, since it's a table. And then I use the name of the column I want, time in seconds, and then I can get position. I'll just call it pos, POS for now. And then the same thing, data imported, and then dot, and then it'll tell me what I got. I got position, and now I can do whatever I want. Now I can plot these, so I can make a plot. We'll do a plot of, let's do a plot of time versus position, and if we run this sucker, I'm gonna just suppress these here real quick so we don't see the lines and lines and lines of data. So I'm just going to run this, and what we should get is a plot of time. We should get is a plot of time versus position. But I got to remember lowercase p. By the way, if you have something where it's like a small capitalization or spelling error, sometimes Matlab will catch that and allow you to do an automatic fix. I fixed that, so I'll rerun it, and here, sure enough, here's our plot of time versus position, and we could go back into these variables that are created for us and take a look at what time versus position would look like. Nice. Okay, So this is one way that we can bring information in and plot it and work with it in Matlab. Well, what about another way of doing this? So let's look at sort of a little bit more of an automated way of bringing this information in. I'm going to create a new section because I don't want to run this again. So I'm going to come right up after my clear in CLC. I'm going to add a section break. I'm going to add another section break. I'm going to tab down a few lines here, and I'm going to add another section break. So let's go back to our live editor. Again, I like entering text so I know what I'm doing. This is the old school way to import data. Here, though, I'm going to put in some text. This is the really cool way to import data. It's the really cool way to import data. All right, so how do we do this if we want to import some data? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come up to this task thing underneath code, and this is going to be specific mostly for our live editor version here. So there are ways of doing this with regular scripts, but we're going to come up here to task, and we're going to do import data, and we're going to get this little menu that loads, and it's going to say select a file. What file do I want? I'm going to browse, and this is going to bring me right to that file directory, right to my documents, MATLAB minutes, because this is where I put it. I can go to any other directory I want, but I'm going to pick this one, and I'm going to say OK for that, and then it's going to load this in, and it's going to show us a preview of this table, and now I have some options. I can come in and grab different sheets. If my Excel spreadsheet has different sheets, it's already recognized that it's an Excel workbook, so I can grab different sheets. I can import this as a table, or now I can just say column vectors or numeric arrays. If I do an array, it'll show me what it's going to look like. So here's an array of everything. If I want my column vectors, I can do that, and it will tell me that it's going to make a vector called tsec p position. So these are what these are going to look like when I import my data. What's really cool is I can click this little drop down right here where it says hide code, and it's going to show me that it built out all of this code for me. So it's doing all of this work, everything we started doing in the background to select all of my data. Up here, it says it's going to give me 4 column vectors to read from. I can actually rename these if I want. So if I don't like the variable, and I want to call this imported time, and imported position, I can do that, right? And now it's going to create these variables. Well, we'll leave velocity and acceleration since there's nothing in them. We'll leave these alone. It's going to create these variables for me when I run this chunk of code. So cool, that's neat. I'm going to come down here and make a new little line, and let's just plot what we get here. So let's just use our plot command, and I want to, let's see, what did I call this? Imported time and imported position. Cool, I want to plot imported time versus imported position, and we're going to run, I'm just going to run this section first because I want to clear everything out. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to click in this section. I'm going to run my section, and that'll clear everything out. And then I want to run this section, which is going to do the import, and then it should create a plot for me. So we're not running this down here. We're just going to import and make this plot. And I will run this, and sure enough, there's everything that gets imported, and I generate my plot. And yep, here it is. There is the plot. Now, if I did want to see all of this information, I unfortunately do not have a way to comment this out. I can come down to display options and turn off imported data, and that will hide all of that information. So to get there again, it's display options and unchecked the imported data. So this is kind of like commenting this line out. And there you have it, 2 different ways to import files from Excel using the tasks and import data feature, or we can do it the old school manual way with read table. All right, have a good day.